Matt Gaetz' nomination to be the Attorney General of the United States, it's circling the drain as two separate lawyers representing the then high school students who were at drug-fueled parties and testified to the House Ethics Committee, according to these lawyers, that they saw Matt Gaetz rape underage women. I mean, the press is reporting it as sex with underage girls, but let's call it for what it is, pedophilia and rape. These two women's stories will be heard whether Matt Gaetz wants that report released or not. And the lawyers representing the two, they're now women, the two victims and witnesses want the report released. And if they don't, there's no confidentiality provision or non-disclosure agreement. These people, if they choose to do so, and I think now would be the time if they can have the courage to do so, in some way, shape, or form, need to have their story come out. Or as one of the lawyers, Joe Leopard, representing one of the observers who was at high school at the time at a party, what if multiple credible witnesses provided evidence of behavior by Matt Gaetz that constituted a serious criminal violation? That is a question that's now being asked of the person that Donald Trump wants to make the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. The victim was 17 at the time and in high school. It all tracks back to a co-conspirator with Joel Greenberg, with Matt Gaetz, named Joel Greenberg, who was the Seminole, Florida County tax assessor, an elected position, and the wingman for Matt Gaetz, according to Joel Greenberg, who's sitting in jail on an 11-year sentence for federal sex trafficking, the things he did allegedly with Matt Gaetz. Now, Matt Gaetz and the other senior Republican leadership, especially in the House, have tried to circle the wagons around Matt Gaetz and protect him. In particular, the Speaker of the House has said, oh, that report shouldn't be released. And they got the Republican chairperson of the House Ethics Committee to say effectively the same thing. But others on the committee aren't so sure, and certainly senators who are now driving this train about the confirmation process, including Republican senators like Senator Cornyn, Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski, and others are already peeling away from the Matt Gaetz nomination, and for good reason. One shoe has already dropped. We already know that Matt Gaetz did not want that report sent out into the public and published. In fact, my, I think, working theory, and I think it's a good one, a strong one, is that the chairperson of the Republican chairperson of the Ethics Committee in the House, which is equally balanced between Democrats and Republicans, it's one of the few that's completely bipartisan, but was chaired by a Republican, that Republican tipped off Matt Gaetz. There's no other way to explain it. 2 days before Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress, both this Congress, the 118th, and the 119th that comes in on January 3rd, even though he won election, is that the Republican chair, having seen the draft of the report, I mean, the report was done. It was supposed to be published on Friday. So that report has been in draft for weeks, if not months. He tipped off Matt Gaetz because he said publicly, well, we're going to release the report on Friday unless Matt Gaetz is no longer in the House and he resigns. I'm not sure that's what the guy sounds like, but that's what he sounds like in my brain. And 2 days later, lo and behold, Matt Gaetz resigned. I mean, I'm sure the conversation went something like this. Here's my artist rendering. Matt, I've seen the report. It's pretty damning for you. Pretty bad. It looks like you raped a minor. Looks like looks like you're a pedophile. You may want to get out of Dodge while you can and try to see if Trump can help you out with some sort of cabinet position. You can just see the conversation. And then it kind of fell into place. Boom, boom, boom. I don't think Donald Trump really thinks he can get Matt Gaetz through the Senate. They did no work to try to socialize the nomination of this potential pedophile, Matt Gaetz, with senators that matter, including Republican ones on the Judiciary Committee that'll be coming in. That would have been Susie Wiles, the allegedly incoming White House chief of staff. I'm not sure that's going to happen. She may get replaced at the rate she's going. But you can see from the initial recoil by the senators, the Republican senators, to Matt Gaetz, and the other reporting that we know where there were gasps, I mean, not of not of joy. I don't think a gasp is ever of joy. Gasps of shock and disgust in the House when he was announced by Republicans, and laughing out loud by Republicans. And then just statements that have come right out by Susan Collins, who said that Matt Gaetz is not a serious candidate. Murkowski, Alaska, is not a serious candidate. Cornyn released the report. Their lead in the Senate has now been peeled away or peeled back to virtually nothing, meaning Matt Gaetz is not going to happen, which is what my theory is. This was a major trolling and an FU to the Justice Department and to the American people and to voters and to the Democrats. Trump knows he can't get Gaetz through. He'll just give him another job that doesn't require Senate confirmation unless the public reaction, which we're hoping through stories like this and reporting like this, is so great and so against him that he has to pull the Gaetz nomination. The problem is, I've read plenty of articles recently. MAGA world is happy about Gaetz. They don't care about somebody being accused of pedophilia or sex assaults on women. They just elected a president who has a jury, 2 juries found was a sex assault assailant. So they don't care. I mean, they know that Trump has ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile that lived in Palm Beach near him. And they voted for him anyway. So why is anybody surprised that he put up Matt Gaetz or Pete Hegseth, who's this white nationalist, Fox and Friends weekend anchor, not even the main show, who runs around, with all sorts of crazy tattoos that are tied to the white supremacist movement and white Christian nationalist movement. And now he's going to be, with no qualifications, our defense secretary. So on Matt Gaetz, the lawyers that have come forward, John Clune for the actual victim and Joe Leopard for one of the witnesses, they want the story out. Now, Matt Gaetz's press secretary, or whatever he's using these days, said that completely misstated what happened with his former criminal prosecution. Matt Gaetz was prosecuted or investigated by the Department of Justice under Joe Biden. And those charges were dropped in the sense that they didn't go forward with the investigation nor bring an indictment. Now, they've spun that as that Matt Gaetz was cleared by the Department of Justice. That's not true. The only way you get, first of all, the Department of Justice rarely does that. They either just drop the investigation without a comment. You can, I've been involved with cases where you're sometimes able, if the facts warrant it, to get what's called a declination letter, which is where they put in writing that they could have, but they have declined to prosecute, and hopefully for a good reason, like they found that you're not guilty, or they don't think they've got enough evidence to prove against you. But they didn't get a declination letter with Gaetz. They didn't get an absolution letter, like you're absolved, you didn't do it. So there's no such thing as a Department of Justice clearing Matt Gaetz. The most he could say, which would be accurate, which is what we trade in here on Legal AF, is that the Department of Justice elected to not continue their investigation against Matt Gaetz. I mean, there were some rumors at the time that they had done their interviews and they weren't as confident about some of the witnesses as I'm talking about here. I wasn't in the room. I don't know exactly what was said or about their credibility, but the House Ethics Committee obviously found them credible. They're represented by competent lawyers. And let's never forget that Joel Greenberg, who's effectively the mirror image of Matt Gaetz, was his wingman, same parties, same drug use, same out of the country, that's the sex trafficking or across state lines, same bringing underage girls for what purpose to be at a party. I've never been at a party as an adult with an underage girl, unless it was the daughter of a friend who's hosting a party. But that's not the same thing. Joel Greenberg got sentenced to 11 years in federal penitentiary for federal sex trafficking crimes, and he's the mirror image. There's also, as I've reported earlier, 3 or 4 months ago, there was a federal judge in the Middle District of Florida in another related suit among the people that attended these parties that basically found that Joel Greenberg was inappropriately attacking the victim of the same woman who was 17 at the time, a girl, about her story, which the judge, a federal judge, found completely inappropriate. And also there was filings in that particular case related to these matters in which the same witness said the same thing under oath, effectively, in an affidavit about Matt Gaetz engaging in sex or raping an underage girl who was 17. Now, she has her story. She met Joel Greenberg. This is why Joel Greenberg's in jail. She met Joel Greenberg through some website where older men look for younger women. She claims that even though she was a girl, she lied and says she was 18, but that Joel Greenberg knew or should have known at all relevant times that she was under 18 and in high school. And yet that didn't dissuade him. In fact, that probably motivated him. And she was introduced to a series of adult males in the Middle District of Florida, which is in the kind of the Tampa area, including Matt Gaetz. That's where we're at. We demand the release of the report. The next best thing would be if these two courageous women, now women, came forward and gave their stories and testified. But the report is really the bombshell that's necessary to completely torpedo the Gaetz nomination and have it withdrawn. I have a working theory. As I said, it's always been trolling by Donald Trump. He knows he can't get Matt Gaetz through. I think that's why he nominated immediately Deputy General Counsel or Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, his lead criminal defense lawyer. It's odd to sort of in the same breath say, here's my attorney general, here's my deputy attorney general. Usually you let the attorney general help select the deputy attorney general in consultation, but that didn't happen here. And I think for good reason. When Gaetz gets bounced, Todd Blanche will get elevated to attorney general. He will get confirmed at that point because there's no issues related to that. We may not like his policies or the way he practices law, but that's not enough to keep him out of being the attorney general. At least he's professional. At least he was in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Matt Gaetz is not qualified at all. He's never practiced law for more than a minute. I don't think he's currently got a bar license that's active. We'll continue to follow this new bombshell information about the two lawyers for the two witnesses coming forward and saying that information was given to the House Ethics Committee and the report should be released here on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok here on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the subscribe button, and help us build to 500,000, which is our goal before the new year. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.